In this video, we're going to look at how to make this duotone effect that I have on this image here. So basically what I did, the light areas of the picture have turned pink in my case. The dark areas, if you notice, are actually blue. So you'll be able to pick different colors. The pattern I have in the background, you'll be able to see a variety of different patterns here and kind of choose which you want. This project doesn't take a long time to complete. What does take a little while is just the fine tuning of it, changing colors, trying different combinations of things until you find what you really think is the best one that you can get. So let's get started. So what I want to do is I'm going to create a new document. I'm going to go with the size of a sheet of computer paper, either 11 for the height or 11 for the width. Then the other respective size would be 8.5. Make sure you're in inches for those. Resolution of 150. I'm going to name this thing Duotone, or you could name it whatever your subject is if you have a picture in mind for this. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. Alright, now that that's set, first thing that I need to do is I need to get my picture onto my project. I'm actually just going to steal the one from my little sample here that I just made real quickly. I'm going to drop that in place. As soon as I put the picture in, a couple things I should do. If I have to, if there's an X over top of the picture, I'll press Enter. That will place it onto my image. Then if I need to, I'd right click and I would rasterize this layer. I don't need to do that on mine because it's already rasterized. If you see a little symbol here in the layers, then you need to go ahead and do that. Once my picture's in, next thing I should do, I should hit Command T, and I should look at how I want to scale this image. So mine has already been scaled from the last time I did this, but let's say I brought it in and it was like this size. I don't want this kind of floating in the middle because the side is cut off, this side's cut off. I want it to look like I placed this on purpose, so I know I'm going to have these two sides up against in my case. The other thing, I have this nice big sheet of paper, I should fill that. So I'm going to hold shift and drag from the corner. Now I can't drag from either edge because it will blow the picture out of proportion. Once I'm happy with that, I'm going to hit enter. And then I am ready to put a mask around this picture. Now I'm going to undo that because I'm going to steal a mask from this picture. So I may have to jump back on my layers. Let me see. Or my history. So I'm going to steal this mask that I created before. Let's see if it'll let me do this. No, maybe not. Alright, so I'm going to I'm going to steal this slightly different way. Now I'm going to steal this for this project. There we go. Alright, so I'm going to delete this one. So basically you would want to get to this point. So again, to do that, what I did was I made a selection. I used my quick selection tool. I selected, all the parts I wanted. I kept adjusting that. I could switch over to the minus option. And once my selection was the way I needed it to be, I hit the mask button. I added a mask. So now, once I had that, I clicked on the mask. I did select, refine mask, and that allowed me then to go in and clean up this selection like we've done in the past with this tool. Don't forget, you can change what you're viewing from on white to on black. So depending on your picture, for me, on black makes more sense because her hair color is so light. This is my daughter. Her hair color is very light, so on black makes more sense than on white. The other thing to remember with this tool, next to the letter P, the brackets, you can make this tool bigger or smaller. You want it to be fairly small because what will happen otherwise is you'll kind of make the edge of the image fade away, like where you do want to see the hair. Alright, so once you're done with that, you would hit OK. This thing is now ready to use. So I'm going to go ahead and lower this a little bit. Like I said, I don't want to see any of these edges kind of falling off. I want that to be hidden. Alright, I'm actually going to lower that even a little more. There we go. Alright, so next thing I want to do is I need to turn this image black and white. We're going to add a series of adjustment layers to this. So the first one is going to be a black and white adjustment layer. To get an adjustment layer, black and white circle. First one I told you was black and white that we want. Whatever is underneath of, everything that's under this adjustment layer is affected by this adjustment layer. So if I move this here, it's no longer black and white. So the black and white layer we're done with. Some of the adjustment layers we're going to make changes to. This one we're just going to leave it as black and white. Next one, we're going to add a levels adjustment layer. This one I am going to make some changes to. We've used levels in the past. If you have not, the way that this works, if we were to take all the pixels, the little dots that make up this image, and we put them on this chart and kind of piled them up individually, this is what it would look like. The pixels that were black, we would drop over here and they would pile up over here. The pixels over here that were totally white, we would pile up on this side. all the different shades of gray would be piled up based on where they kind of fit from black to white. So you can see in this picture there's a lot of these like lighter gray tones. This is medium kind of gray, like 50% gray. So what I want to do is I want to tell more of these pixels here that are kind of piled up to be black, and I want to tell more of them to be white. What that's going to do is that's going to give me a little more contrast in this picture to make it kind of a little bit easier to see this effect. So the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to drag this little slider over. Now all of these pixels piled up over here are totally black in my image. I'm going to do the same thing on this white side. I'm going to make it so that more of the pixels are totally white. So throughout this image now there's scattered in, there's some random pixels. These ones here are totally 100% white. Now I can mess with this slider and just kind of get this to where I think I can see all the detail. This is something you'll probably have to come back later and adjust once you get the color on here, but you might as well kind of get it started while you're making your levels. Alright, so I'm happy with that for right now. We'll go a little later. There we go. So next I need to add two different solid color adjustment layers to this project. So I'm going to click solid color. First one I'm going to pick, let's go just red. Again, you're going to change these, so don't be too picky with the color that you pick. What I want to do is I want to make it so that the red shows up everywhere that the picture is light. The light portions of the picture, the red's going to show up. So if I change the blending mode from normal to multiply, what this does, the original image shows up in all the dark areas. In the lighter areas, red shows up. So the lighter an area is, the more red shows up. The darker it is, the less red shows up. Next, I want to add another one of these adjustment layers, and it's going to be another solid color. And this time I'm just going to pick blue. I'm going to go with like a darker blue probably. And I'm going to change the blending mode again. This one's going to be lighten. So what happens here, the blue only shows up in the dark spots. The very light spots, no blue shows up at all. Another thing I like doing on this second layer is I like dropping the opacity a little bit here, because that brings back more of that red that I chose. I still have the blue that I wanted. So you see the dark spots are turning blue, the light spots are turning red. But it just gives me a little bit more control when I drop that opacity a little bit. There's no specific number or anything. You just kind of got to play with yours and look at it. So I can go in as much as I want and change these colors. The more I change them, totally different effects I'm going to get. So it depends kind of what you want. And again, it doesn't matter what order you change these things in. You just want to try a bunch of different things. So I'm going to go try that for mine. So there's my lighter color. Now my dark color, I kind of like that blue actually. I might even go a little more in the range of purple for mine. And again, you would just keep playing around. So I could come back and play with this any number of times. So I'm starting to get that effect that I want on here. So I don't want these effects that I'm putting on this background. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a group. I'm going to click this button here in my layers. Nothing is in this group right now. I'm going to take all of these layers here and place them into this group. So what I'm going to do to kind of make things go faster, I clicked on the first one. I'm going to hold shift, click on the last one. That allows me to select all of them at once. I'm going to drag them right into that group. If you notice, they all indented to the right when I did that. Now I could drag those in individually too. I'm just doing that to speed things up. Another way I can tell these are in the group, if I click the little triangle next to the group, they all disappear. So all of these things are now in this folder. They're in the same order they were in before. Alright, nothing's changed yet though. The background is still getting this effect. What I'm going to do to fix that, and this is why we created the folder, is I'm going to take this mask and I'm going to drag it. I'm going to move it so that it's no longer in this picture, but it's actually on the folder. So now everything in this folder is affected by this mask. So I no longer see that effect anywhere except for where the face and the body is. So a little bit left to go here. I have this extra layer I'm just going to clean up. I'm going to add another solid color adjustment layer. This one is going to be my background color, so I'm going to just randomly pick something here to start. I do not want it to be in that folder. I want it to be outside of that folder underneath everything. So the way I know this is not in the folder, again, all of these ones are indented. This one is not. It's all the way to the left. Once I've created this solid color adjustment layer, I'm going to add a layer style to it. And the layer style I'm going to add is a pattern overlay. You may have messed with these before and you kind of saw the bubble one and you're like, oh great, I have bubbles, but then nothing else was in here. To get more of these options, when you're on the pattern overlay. So I hit the FX button, I pick pattern overlay. When I'm on this box pops up. If I click here, I can click this little button and then I can choose different options. Each of these options has a bunch of patterns in them. So if I click rock patterns, I have two choices here. I can hit append and OK. Append means add it to the group that you already have here. OK means get rid of all these ones and just show those new ones that I selected. So I'm going to hit append to add these in. So here's my rocks. I have all these different rock patterns. Once I select a pattern, I can mess with the blending mode. That's going to allow the color that I pick to kind of behind there for that solid color to shine through. Depending on what I pick here, it's going to have different effects. I can drop the opacity of this thing. And I can also scale it. Say I like these rocks, but I wanted them bigger. I can scale them down. So there's a ton of different things that you can do. So that's pretty much the project. So again, all the different choices you have, what pattern you pick, what color you pick for the background, what blending mode you use on here. If I put this on normal, I'm just going to see the rocks. If I put it on something else, then certain things are going to start shining through, and again, everything is going to interact differently. Other options I have. I can mess with the levels to get more of these black and whites kind of showing through, so I get more of, in my case, this pink and purple. And that's the last thing that I can do. I can choose these colors, and I can even really mess with these blending modes more. Right now, we just set them to lighten and multiply, but that will completely change the way this looks if I change these colors. So to change these, all I'm doing is I'm double-clicking to open up this box. If I pick a different color, I see the change. Good luck.